Welcome to this week's edition of Black Authors Matter TV, where we interview the latest movers and shakers in the African American literary community. You'll meet some old friends, discover new ones, and stay abreast of the latest book developments around the country and even the world. So sit back and relax for the next 2 hours with Black Authors Matter TV co-hosts Gwen Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Good evening, and welcome to the November 19th edition of Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson, your host for tonight, along with my able and awesome co-host.
Okay. Hey, y'all, it's Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Good evening, everyone.
And we are getting close to Thanksgiving. It'll be next week.
Yay!
So we are having a show next week on Tuesday. But during the holidays, because Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve are on a Tuesday, we won't be having a show on those 2 dates. So we'll actually have a 2-week hiatus from the show as we close out the year. We are now an award-winning show. We just won an award from an organization called Building Relationships Around Books, and it's a Facebook group, and she's been doing these awards for years. Sharon Blunt has, and we were in the category of bookish literary podcasts, and we won. So now we can say we're an award-winning show, and it's about time. We've been doing this for 4 years, and last week, if you weren't here, we celebrated our 700th guest last week. Also, I went to the Texas Book Festival this weekend. I shared a booth with 3 of my author friends, and it is one of the largest book festivals in the country. It's humongous. They had like 20,000 people. It's all outdoors with tents.
Nice.
And I think C-SPAN carried it live. And so it was really good. And finally, for the National Black Book Festival this year, we just got the photos and reels back from the photographer, actually on Friday before I left for the Texas Book Festival. So we're going through them. We have to put names to faces and things like that. We'll be posting daily, probably from now to January, because we have between 300 and 400 photos and reels. So we are excited about that, and we are going to be bringing on our first guest now. And our first guest actually is two gentlemen, Calvin Hollins and John Bitoy. I think I'm spelling pronouncing the name correctly. And they have a memoir called The Life We Built, a love story. And they are from Chicago originally. They are producers of shows, and they're working on another movie adaptation. So when they come on the screen, we'll be able to talk to them. But also, there's a couple of people signed in that I think are probably people who are supporters of our first 2 guests, and they shouldn't be logged on to Zoom. We send the guests a notification that their friends should be watching it live on Facebook, not logged into the Zoom. So I'm going to, I think one of them logged off, and the other one, I'm just going to leave there, but I won't be admitting the other person. So if you all could unmute your mic so we'll be able to hear you.
And while you all are unmuting your mic, I just want to have a conversation about how smooth you 2 look. I mean, the suits, the hats, y'all were not playing with us tonight. So I'm happy and I love it.
You
all doing tonight?
It's an unusual setting with the way you all are dressed and the backdrop and all that.
I like it.
It's different. So welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you. We're glad to be here.
Okay, and the sound is good too. We can hear you loud and clear.
But we can't hear you too loud. We kind of old now. We're trying to turn up the volume a little bit.
Well, I have on a microphone, so I hope you can hear me. And then Gwen is talking into her microphone.
My mic, so you might need to turn your volume up. That may be something you need to do if you can't hear us that well.
Oh, just bring it close, so that's good.
Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, we can work. We can work now.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Now, which one of you is Calvin?
Hello.
Wave, Okay, you're Calvin.
Calvin is the pretty one.
Yeah, ain't no pretty. Ain't no pretty in there.
This is going to be a fun interview, Gwen. I can see it now.
You are John. You wear the cap, and he wears the hat. So
I got the hat. He got the cap. So
okay. All right. I got it. So give us a little background on who Calvin and John are and what you all have been doing. I know you have your bio and you say you're entrepreneurs and you're philanthropists and you try to work with young Black men especially to provide them with more life options.
You just say young Black men.
Well, that's what it says in your bio.
Yeah, well,
you say you work with young Black men.
We started out that way. So
no, I said work. I said work with young Black men.
Yeah.
Well,
so anyway, tell us a little bit about what you all do.
Well, we've been friends for like 40 some odd years.
Wonderful.
And, we were just, like I said, John and I were just having a conversation one day about our past. And Crystal, our writer, happened to hear our conversation. She said, "You guys need to put this in a book," And we kind of looked at each other and said, "Okay." And we got started on the project. And as the project unfolded, a lot of heartbeats came out of it, and a lot of love came out of the book, and that's how we wrote the book. We wrote the book out of love. There's no anger in the book at all. It's fun, love, and companionship. What's unique about the book is you find very few Black men who are as close as we were. And to my dismay, I have no brothers. And T became my brother, and John became my brother. T had 6 brothers, John got 5 brothers, so I was kind of left in the mix. So when I found these guys, they immediately became my brothers, and we became closer than brothers. And for several years, we were inseparable. And things it was a roller coaster ride. It was just a roller coaster ride.
And basically, it's basically about 3 Black guys that started off small, loved each other. Back then in the day, if Black guys loved each other, they thought we were gay or something like that. This is true love, and we developed a relationship, and we just been there forever.
Now, people just couldn't fathom the fact that 2 Black men could have a good friendship and not be gay.
Well, back in them days, we talking back in the 70s and 80s, if guys showed love, Black guys showed love, you're considered quote unquote gay. It didn't change now, but back then, and people in general, they don't think that Blacks can love each other and kiss our kids.
Black men.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, no, yeah, men are mostly expected to be tough, hard. And so that's where some of that comes from. But it's good to hear that you all have been able to maintain a lifelong friendship. And, I have some lifelong friends that I, grew up with and I'm still friends. We don't see each other a lot, but, we always wish each other happy birthday. And, you just reflect back on those days when you were young and you didn't know what the future held, but you were excited about life coming up and you didn't know exactly how it was going to unfold, and you had a lot of fun. We did anyway. We had a lot of fun.
The purpose of our relationship was more fun than we were 3 Black men trying to do empire building. We wanted to build an empire, and that's why our thoughts were all along. Even small things initially in the beginning, from opening our first restaurant up and our car wash and our boxing ring and the things that we were doing, we empire building and pushing T out front because at that time he was more visible than us. We were behind the scene kind of guys. but we were the brains behind of everything he did, or everything he did, from his conception, the idea, the haircut, the gold chains, the name, all of that thing came through us. And like I said, when you saw one, you saw the other. I mean, it got so bad that our girlfriends were like, "Can we go any damn way without, without the three you got being together?" That kind of thing. And but it was like it was a roller coaster ride, and we really didn't have a plan. It was all planned in our head at the time because we were moving. We were like moving so fast. I mean, our restaurant was doing so well. We're making money like they thought we were selling dope instead of ribs. That's how.
There must be some good ribs.
So, we made enough money to buy 50% of the dingbats, the club we worked at, because the owner had fell on hard times, so he reached out to us, and we bought half of the club at the time.
Now, for those who didn't hear, they grew up and worked with Mr. T.
Yeah.
I don't think that they heard that specifically because you were kind of saying it fast. So
yeah, I was going to ask about that as well. How did that relationship come to be?
By accident, total by accident.
Everything was done spontaneously.
I had started working. I was a police officer at the time, and the owner was looking forward to a changing the concept of his restaurant to a nightclub at night. And I had been there about a year or 2 years already, but I was going through guys I was hiring to help me at the door. They weren't working out, and finally, John's sister introduced me to her brother, which is John, and I found out he had some skills in martial arts and shit. I said, I can't take all these ass whooping by myself at this door. So I need somebody to help me. So John came along, and about a year or so later, T came to the club, couldn't pay to get in. We let him use the bathroom, and he stayed around for another hour. We realized we had lost track of him. So we went to the dance floor to throw him out the club, and he acted like he was scared of us. Now, right now, T is big. We were about $150 between John and I, about 150 pounds at the time. And John, T was close to 250. So he had like he was scared of us. Oh, I'll go. And he went back to the end of the door. We got an altercation with some guys, and he came to our assistance to help with the three guys we were arguing with. And we let him stick around the club, and he came down every freaking day after that. And we never knew where he lived. He still lives in Robert Taylor Homes in the projects. But he worked down the street at the hospital as a security guard.
Northwestern
Hospital. And after that, the camaraderie started to blend. At that time, I wasn't able to hire another guy, but what I was able to do was feed him. And T would eat 2 or 3 steaks because then that's a fine dining restaurant in the daytime and a nightclub at night. So when Ron Brisman, the owner, started looking at my checks every night for food, he said, I told him who it was. I said, because he had befriended T as well. He said, fuck feeding him, hire him. Like this, I ended up hiring T. So it became the 3 of us working the door. And one day I was sitting there at the counter, and I came up with the idea of TCB, T-Row, Calvin, and Bitoy. And
if you look at his arm, he has that burnt on his arm, TCB
on his arm.
Wow.
Okay.
And the 3 of us we were trying to find a way of putting ourselves together as brothers. So we all came with ideas of branding ourselves and tattoos. So we started on tattoos. So we get to the tattoo shop, and he was put on there TCB, Mr. T. I was going to get TCB, Mr. C, and Victoria was going to get TC, Mr. B. But T started crying when he started getting his tattoo on his arm. So John and I looked at each other. John said, let's get bracelets. So, but we had some, to be honest with you, it was a roller coaster ride for us. It was more fun. We had more fun in those 10 years that we were together than anything else.
So when he started doing television and films, did you all play a role in any of that as far as
in the beginning when he did Rocky 3, we were the one that put the money up to get him out there, train him for Rocky 3.
Wow.
We did all that. But then once we kind of, just like anything else, Kelvin and I was always grounded. Money really wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, we needed money, but money wasn't
the driving force.
Wasn't the driving force for us. We was always into having fun.
And even Stallone wanted us to be in the movie Rocky 3, but we said this is T's show. We managed him and corrected him on certain things. And but we didn't want to take the shine away from him at the time. So we stayed in the background doing our thing as the business partners, and him being the star. And that was our intention in the beginning. We started out with the idea of writing a book, The World's Toughest Bodyguard. We started out, that was one of our first premises to write a book about it, which we started the book as well. And I was more the mechanic behind managing, and John was more the trainer because his physical attributes. So he did all that work, and I did the behind the work on them.
And that's why our book is called The Life That We Built and Love Story. Because we built
I was just about to ask you about
provided that platform, that stage, and things.
Well, what I always say, beyond anything else, had we not brought Mr. T into our world, he would never be Mr. T. Because he would never have a platform to work from. He wouldn't. The World's Bouncer Contest, the Bodyguard of Leon Spinks, all those things came through us. None of those things came through T. They all came through us.
Like the gold chains. That's the gold chains is a big. Everybody think he bought all those gold chains. Kelvin and I was fighting at Deanbats every night, and we tear back then. We had like $500-600 suits. We tear up the suit. So if you come down there and start a ruckus, we just take your gold chain. So we took one chain. I had one on. Next one, Kelvin get a chain. Then we might have two each. But we fighting every night. We're not gonna walk around with 20 pieces of gold. We gave him the tea.
I had a female friend who worked at Karla Jewelers, and fortunately she brought some chains down the road. As a matter of fact, her name was Angie, and we changed her name to Goldie because of the fact she was bringing so many chains to us every Friday. Another chain. And that time was the layered look, all the layered looks and that kind of thing. T had one chain when he first met, which was a razor blade, a gold razor blade. And that was the only chain he had. And after we started creating this idea of the Mandinka look that he calls it, then that's how
that's the real story, how the chains get started.
So why didn't you think about maybe developing more artists? You seem like you did a lot for Mr. T.
Well, like I said, this wasn't developing nothing. We just some brothers got together and things just happened.
It was more happenstance than was creative.
There wasn't a plan, really. It was just y'all were rolling with what was happening.
Yeah, we just rolling. It was back in the time. This was the hottest club in the city of Chicago. We down on the Gold Coast with only blacks. We down there in tuxedos. Everybody in the world thought we was famous. And we just some young kids from the West Side.
Well, y'all dress like y'all famous right now.
Well, even now, people still think we famous. But here in Chicago, everywhere we go, everybody know the story on us. And you figure Deanbats was like Studio 54 in New York. We had everybody. Everybody came.
We picked and choose people coming through the door. It was a line with outside the door. So we picked and choose our clients. Even with T, we weren't gonna let him in the club because he like a buffoon that night because of the coat he had on and the clothes he had. Because he always, his dress was just ostentatious. It was just a weird dress. But we slowly got him out of the zoot suits.
The zoot suits and got him into a tuxedo
and stuff like that.
Okay.
We couldn't change his
mannerisms.
His personality.
He's a comedy bear. He would mess with people, and matter of fact, so badly that the owner of the club wanted to get rid of him because he aggravated the customers so bad because he had to walk the T's and T. They're paying to be the star tonight, not you. But
he couldn't get rid of him because we didn't get rid of both
as well. So he couldn't do anything. He put a suggestion box for the customers to suggest what to do, and we would take all the bad comments out of the suggestion box about because all things that get rid of Mr. T, get rid of that ass on the front door. That's all the things to say.
Okay, now who came up with the phrase "I pity the fool"? Where did that come from?
No, that was T.
That was his own. That was his own original. Okay.
That was T. He was very creative and very smart. That was T. Yeah. All that bogus stuff, that was T.
Okay.
And
because that's the phrase he's known for. he originated that one. Yeah. And he's known for it. And even when he would do commercials and things like that, he would use that phrase still.
Well, everyone who's read the book, it's like they love it, and because we put our heart into it, and fortunately we found Crystal who could write for us, And now we have a young lady now who's writing the scripts for us right now. When she initially started writing and reading the book, she said, "Y'all ain't got one story. Y'all got several stories. You got a series of stories here to tell." So she came in on board now, and she is now putting the script together, and we reaching out to some studios and stuff of that nature for a possibility of doing a mini series on our story. It's just, I mean, it's not because it's our story. It's just such a unique story, and we've been told by that by many, many people that it's just not our story. It's a story that has compassion, love, and foresight. That's what we have.
So so right now you're looking for an executive producer who can bring these shows to life.
Yes, we're reaching out to several studios right now. Matter of fact, I reached out to Salone's company, which is called Babel Productions, and because he was the first one who brought tea into the limelight, because he really fought for tea. We were out there when they initially did the reading, and they didn't want tea. They wanted who did they want? They wanted some of the boxes. They
Joe Frazier.
Joe Frazier. They wanted some real boxes instead of tea. But tea, we had screened tea so well. Matter of fact, we bought at that time the recorder cost us like $2,500.
Yeah, one little recorder.
We bought a recorder. That was a big recorder because back then it had the big tape and stuff. We bought that just to do interviews. So we were doing commercials with him, selling Dove soap and all those kind of things of that nature, just to get him prepped up for the interview. But the great thing about T, like I said, very smart man. He was able to rehearse and know everybody's lines. He knew Tyra Shires' lines, he knew Rocky's lines, he knew Virgin Meredith's lines. He knew everybody's lines. So Stallone was impressed with that. But Charles and Winkler, who was the executive producers, they wanted someone else. But Stallone stood on it and said, "No, this is the guy I want." So that's how he ended up doing the movie. So that's how he ended up.
And he was a lot of those lines that was T. That wasn't no acting. That was T in real life.
Right. And then T was kind of, he was a big guy, but he was kind of fat.
Yeah.
So John had eating tuna fish and rice every day. I mean, and bananas to get him in physical shape for the movie itself. So if you look at the picture of him being what he was at Dingbat to the movie, you'll see the total transformation that John created for his body. I helped him with the lines. I rehearsed the line. John rehearsed the body. That's all I can say.
And if you get a copy of our book, you'll see in the book we got plenty of pictures, the nostalgia from fat to everything. I mean, we were considered businessmen. We were considered gangsters. We were considered.
We had all kinds.
It was everything.
We were title areas.
Everything, but we're just regular guys having fun, living the life. Everybody thought we were something that we was.
That's a good thing. I remember my grandmother telling me that when she graduated from high school, all of the girls were required to dress the same. They had to have the same dress, the same shoes, the same stockings, because the mothers at the school or the sisters at the school, because she went to a Catholic school, they didn't want anybody to be able to tell the difference from the rich girls from the poor girls. They wanted everybody to look alike. And I think that was something that she instilled in myself and her children as well, that, no matter how much money you think you have or how much or how special or not special you think you are, always put your best foot forward. Nobody should be able to tell how much you have or how much you don't have by looking at you. Always put your best foot forward. So that's what I think of when I think about what you just said.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons that we were so successful at the door, because we treated everybody like except for T. T was, he was a clown, but John and I, we were very respectful, and that's why we wore a tuxedo, because we expected everyone to look when they came to the club, to look like us, coming to the club. And back then, as you know, people were dressing. I mean, they started dressing down later on in the club life, but back then, everybody was, I mean, they were planning the whole week to go out to the club on Saturday night by, getting their hair done and nails done. They're dressing up. And like I said, we wore a tuxedo until closing time, and we changed our regular street clothes at that time.
Yeah, sometimes when you look at photographs from Black men from like the 40s and 50s, that when they were out in public, they were always very well dressed.
Absolutely.
Right.
Even if they only had one suit, you know, they always were looking good and, you know, just looking prosperous, you know.
Well, I think, one of the things, when you dress upright, you get more respect. When you're
Yeah.
dressing down, like, jeans hanging on your booty, all that kind of, you get less respect. So if you dress in the proper way, people give you a little bit more respect. And that's what we try to
This is
do.
true.
That's why we wore tuxedos every night at the club in order to emulate that kind of situation to everyone.
And that's why Ron Brishman loves us so much, because we can handle a variety of people that's coming through the door, rich, poor, black, white, green.
And we were very proud of the club,
Right.
and even the employees, all the employees were equally as proud of the club because we had so many dimensions in the club. We had a jazz room, we had the food, we had the dance floor, we had a piano room called a pumpkin room, where it was jazz back there. So it was an enjoyable situation for anybody to come to the club. And like I said, most of the time it was no altercation. We had a few because people started drinking spirits, which is alcohol. They get out of hand. But overall, it was always a pleasant time. We never had any real big incidents at the club. Every once in a while we have a skirmish, but more or less every night was a fun night. We were young, in our 20s, early 30s, and we were looking for the girls that night. We were looking for the money and the girls. That was our purpose.
Okay, at least you
We didn't have health insurance, but we had plenty of girls, and that was it. So our health insurance was put to the side, but the girls were always there. So.
Oh, hilarious. Anyway, oh, it sounds like the club was really, it was really a place to be in terms of nightlife in the city.
Right.
Well, you two guys are too young to remember it, but at that time back then, it was, and excuse my French, it was the shit. Everybody wanted to participate. Everybody wanted to come to Dingbats, because it was downtown. It was the first black club downtown Chicago on the Gold Coast.
On the Gold Coast.
So that was one of the things. You had plenty of clubs. You had Taste. You had other clubs around on the South Side. That was nice. But you want to go downtown. You want to dress up and go downtown. So, and that's what we had above everybody else.
Okay, now you all are from Chicago. Have you all always lived in Chicago?
Yeah, we've always been here. We Chicago. We're West Side guys, off the West Side of Chicago.
Still here, still roots.
Lived here, did here. Only thing we did our businesses. We had a restaurant on 35th in Michigan, which is called TCB. Then we had one called Tasty Q up north on Broadway and Sheridan. Then we had one on 83rd and Stony called that was Tasty Q too. So we had 3 barbecue restaurants. And what happened, I think they would have been equally as impressive as the restaurants that's going on to this day. But we thought we were going to Hollywood. We transcend our lives to managing T and doing things for him to promote him. Because like I said, we're empire building. We thought about building Sears Tower. We weren't talking about those small stuff. We were talking about doing some crazy stuff. And we figured T would be the linchpin to guys that we were making money. I mean, $1,500 a week back then was a lot of money for each of us. So, in the 80s, 70s, $1,500 a week, make it every week with no doubt. Plus the money we make at thing that's in just our restaurants. But we were talking about building castles. We weren't talking about little small things. We had these visions of grandeur all our lives, and a lot of the stuff came, and I had to admit a lot of stuff came through my head because I had been exposed to a lot, and I was bringing these guys along on this ride that I saw us doing. I mean, I had visions of grandeur.
Yeah, Kelvin was a lot mature than us. He was a lot more experienced. I had just got out of college. I didn't know nothing about nothing.
And I had been around the street for a long time, and I've been preaching for 10 years prior to that. So I've been around, and prior to that, I had been exposed to a lot of stuff. I went to Playboy magazine in college.
Excuse me.
I got exposed to that kind of life. And I wanted some of that shit. I said, I gotta have some of this, I wanted some of this, and that's what I was shooting toward. I mean, and that's why these guys, and we went to the Playboy Club up in Lake Geneva 2 or 3 times a month, just to hang out, just to get that feel that we wanted to have in that kind of environment, that kind of world that we wanted to present ourselves in.
Well, unfortunately, we're coming to the end of the interview. It is.
I thought we were going to talk all night. Oh God! But let us share some things with you real quickly before our time is up. Okay?
Yeah, we got a website, hollinsandbitoy.com. That's our website.
Yes, I put it in the chat so our viewers can click the link.
Good, beautiful.
You're
I don't know what
welcome.
else. She gave us this, they gave us this stuff. We can't remember. Who gonna remember all this? We from the streets.
Well,
And you can get the book on Amazon. It's a
okay, show
bestseller.
the book, and they can get the book on your website as well.
You can get the book on the website.
And we'll deliver to your house.
Oh, you're gonna personally deliver. Okay, I'm ordering tonight. If you're gonna personally deliver the book, I want to see this.
So
Well,
that's the
Calvin and John, this has been very entertaining, and
We
we
appreciate
really
what you do for us
appreciate
to make this happen.
you sharing your lives with us and all about your dreams and goals and ambitions and your lives working with and befriending Mr. T. So it's been incredible, and we really appreciate you being on the show, and we wish you an amazing success with your book and all the other projects you have going forward.
Fantastic.
Thank
Fantastic.
you.
Thank you. It was great
Okay.
talking with you.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Thank
You,
you.
you have a great night.
All right.
Okay.
That was one of our more entertaining interviews.
I think so.
We, so our next guest, we haven't had a bookstore owner on in a while. So Karla, I think it's pronounced Aghedo, but she can correct me if I'm wrong. She recently opened a Christian bookstore in Fifth Ward, Houston.
That's my
If-
girl.
Yeah, if any of you all know about Houston and the wards, I'm not from Houston originally, so I get them mixed up. But Fifth Ward, they call it Fifth Ward, Texas. It's not even limited to Houston. So anyway, Karla, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you so much. I am thrilled to be here.
And we're thrilled to have you.
And we met you originally at this year's National Black Book Festival.
Yes,
And you
that
said
was an incredible experience. So inspired by what you've created, and to meet both of you ladies on the same day, it was just a blessing. Yeah.
Oh, you were a blessing to me because I sure was like, I don't feel like taking these books home, and I need to keep my books in Houston. And then all of a sudden, this angel walks up and says that she owns a bookstore in Houston. I said, "Oh, girl, we need to talk."
now, is your last name pronounced Aghedo? I mean Aghedo?
Aghedo.
Aghedo. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. And that's your married name, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And your husband is from?
He is from Benin City, Nigeria.
Okay. All right. So, you're an attorney, correct?
I am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm doing this interview in between preparing for hearings and
Wow.
filing a motion tonight.
Oh,
You're a busy
boy.
lady.
Oh boy, you are busy. And you have 3 children, I think. Didn't you bring them with you?
That's right. Yes.
So tell us the name of your bookstore and tell us what inspired you to open a bookstore in the current environment, in the current literary environment.
Yes, and thank you again so much for having me as a guest tonight. I'm really thrilled to be here. The name of our bookstore is the SisStore Joy Christian Bookstore. So when you're looking for us, it's sis, like, hey sis, right? And then the word store, and then joy. And what really inspired us to create this bookstore in this literary environment was this idea of creating community around people who really need to be celebrated. So we are featuring Christian Black women, authors, and artisans, and their work comes from all over, right? It spans anywhere from devotionals to children's books, to even now a thriller, right? With Dr. Rhonda Lawson's book. But our authors all self-identify as Christian Black women. And we just believe it's so important to create community around that group of women, both bringing those women together as authors, as creators, but also bringing the women together who love them. And frankly, the women and men and children and everyone else who want to celebrate those authors. And we just thought it was really important to do that in this particular season, politically, religiously, all of that. So, yeah.
I like how you said women who self-identify as Christian authors, because often when people hear the phrase Christian author, they think of authors who write Christian fiction. And not every Christian writes what's titled as or what's thought of as Christian fiction, because I personally don't write Christian fiction. However, there's always going to be a theme of Christianity in any of my books. There's always going to be somebody who's saying you need to pray, or somebody who's going to the Lord because they have something on their mind, or there's always going to be somebody who turns to God. There's always going to be something in the story. But I made a decision when I first started writing that I didn't want to write what was known as Christian fiction, because I feel that Christians are real people.
Yeah.
Christians go through their own struggles. Christians they have certain times where they're not going to say the Christian thing, so to speak. And so I wanted to write about those people and talk about those experiences, because I think when we write stories where the Christian woman or the Christian man is always perfect, the person who has a struggle is always going to feel like they're falling short if they don't see themselves in these stories. So I made that conscious decision to not write characters that way.
I love that. And for us, it's a decision about empowering that writer,
Right.
empowering the author, and affirming her ability to express herself outside of the box, right? In multiple different ways. But then also our consumer is looking for different things as well. She needs access to great self-help books. She needs access to great material for her kids. And she needs access to a story that she can get lost in, whether
Right.
that's autobiographical or fiction, right? So that's what we were thinking when we thought of our concept behind Sister Joy.
Now, I hadn't thought of this till you described your mission and what you focus on in your bookstore, but I have a novel series. It's a 2-book series that has a biblical tie-in, and I need to send you one. The first installment is the Genesis Files, and the sequel is Exodus from Treachery. And the storylines takes place in Houston. It's a mystery set in Houston, both books. So I need to send you a copy of each one, so you can put it out there and see if people like it. I think they will. It has a biblical tie-in. It's not Christian fiction at all, but the characters rely on faith to get them through what they're dealing with. And it's some treacherous stuff that they have to deal with in both books. So I think your audience would enjoy them.
That sounds absolutely perfect. I love that it's based in Houston.
Yeah, the Houston story. People will recognize the landmarks, and so even some I even mentioned restaurants and street sections of town, freeways that people frequent. And it's centered around a journalist that works for the Houston Ledger.
Is
That's the name of the
Papa
paper.
included in the book?
No, Papa Doe is not in this book. Actually, they meet, two of the characters meet at Fuddruckers though. And, and, you know, and Lucille's is mentioned in the book.
Yes. Now, is it the Fuddruckers that got closed down right there in the medical center?
No, I wrote the first book so long ago, I don't remember which Fuddruckers I was referencing. I just know it was Fuddruckers. I have to go back in there and look to tell you that, because
I love
it took me 5 years to write each book, and there was time in between. So the second installment just came out a year ago, so it's a lot more familiar. All the details are familiar to me. The first one, I don't know every single detail in my mind because I wrote it 10 years ago. So, but they are both, well, highly rated on Amazon. Excellent rating. So I'm going to send that to you now. For your bookstore, you did a retreat. You did it already. You had a writer's retreat.
Yes.
Well, tell
And
us
it
about that.
Yeah, so this was our first ever writers retreat. As you know, our bookstore opened in March of 2024, so we are still very young and growing. The writers retreat kind of combined the work that I've been doing for a while, curating wellness retreats for professional women of color, with my love for books, my love for writing, and my real passion for authors who've got stories to birth. And so, I said, hey, why don't we host a weekend where we not only inspire authors, not only get them together to connect with one another, but build in some time for them to write, right? Maybe there's someone who needs to get away from their kids to do some writing. Needs a quiet space, maybe just somebody else cooking the meals, to really be able to focus in on their writing. And maybe they can do a lot or a little in a weekend, but being in a space that's all about curating their creativity and celebrating their art, I thought would be really meaningful. And it was a big success. We had, when I say big, I love intimate groups. So sorry if you can hear that train. That's one of the lovely features of Fifth Ward.
No, we didn't hear it.
I
The
didn't hear it
microphone
either.
on these computers is very narrowly focused in terms of the audio, because if you move too far away from your computer, your voice won't pick up. And
Yes.
so background noise, fortunately, normally is we used to have a group of people that lived across the street. Thank God they've gone. Well, they actually burned the house down from the ins. They were renters. It was a horrible experience. But they used to have motorcycles, like it would be in the like 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning. It'd be 3 or 4 motorcycles revving, and sometimes they would do it during the show, but nobody could ever hear them. So that let
Okay.
me, the audience couldn't hear them, but they would be revving their motorcycles, like, like they were telling the whole neighborhood, here we are.
That's exactly what they were doing. They were
You
doing
know?
that exactly for that reason.
Oh my
They were.
God.
Yeah,
Well,
it was, I wasn't glad that they burned the house, because they had to redo that whole house. They had to take down all the walls. And then they sold it. But I was not sad to see them go, because one family can ruin a neighborhood.
that sounds like material for your next book.
It could be, I think I did include something about them in one of my scenes. Just you know, you can get inspiration from anywhere when you're writing things.
Absolutely. Well,
And
one of
so,
my inspirations will probably be the trains that come through Fifth Ward,
okay.
including stopping on the tracks for sometimes an hour at a time. And it is a real symbol, in my opinion, of what this neighborhood has meant for some time now, right? But there's so much change happening. There's so much cool development going on. Um, I'm thinking about the Deluxe Theater and how arts are being celebrated there. They just had a Houston Cinema Festival there this past weekend. That's all right down the street on Lyons Avenue. Our bookstore is located here on Lyons Avenue, and there's
Also,
just so much
Lions.
development. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
so much
Lions
development
is
that's happening.
like the Main Street, like Hollywood Boulevard of what Houston used to be. It was before I was here, but Lyons Avenue is where they said all the action used to be back in the
Yeah,
day.
yeah. The guys that you just had on talking about sports and all of that, um, the George Foreman movie, big George Foreman movie,
That was a great movie.
is right. Yeah, some of the opening scenes are set on Lyons Avenue right here in Houston.
Nice.
Oh,
Um, so yeah.
okay.
Well, your bookstore's been making quite an impact. I remember when I met you, I was talking with the lady when you came up to the table and you started describing your bookstore, and she knew exactly what store it was. She was even able to describe the kids running around the front of the store. That's how much of an impact your store has made. And then also you mentioned that you hosted a NaNoWriMo kickoff event,
Yes.
which is wonderful. So you're getting out there. You've been able to spread the word about what you're doing.
Absolutely. And thank you for that. NaNoWriMo is something that was honestly new to me, right? The National Novel Writing Month
Mm-hmm.
and encouraging people to write 50,000 new words of fiction. So we were all sitting here at midnight on November 1st when the clock struck midnight, and started typing. Small group, not many of us, but again, I feel like big impact doesn't necessarily mean numbers.
Exactly.
Those intimate connections where someone's inspired, where iron gets to sharpen iron, makes a big difference.
Yeah, for those who don't know about NaNoWriMo, it's always in November, and it's from November 1st to 30th, and it's a national movement. I don't know who started it, but it's to encourage
It's
writers
actually
to write.
international. I've
Oh,
seen
okay.
they've actually been doing NaNoWriMo in other countries. When I was stationed in Belgium, there were cohorts throughout Europe who were
Okay.
celebrating NaNoWriMo.
Okay. So it's been around a while,
Mm,
and it encourages writers to write 50,000 words during the month of November. And when I wrote my sequel, I didn't get 50,000 words done. But that month it wasn't last November because it came out last October. So it was the November of 2022. I didn't get 50,000, but it did get me moving,
I
and
think
I did
that's
a
the
lot
best
more
part
words.
about NaNoWriMo. Don't feel bad if you don't reach 50,000 words. The
Right.
fact that you got your book started is just the kickstart that you need. Just keep going. I mean, you may not finish your book until January, but the fact that you finally got it started is something to be celebrated.
Yeah, I was
Absolutely.
in the middle and kind of stuck. So when I was writing that month, that really helped me get further than I would have gotten without that push.
Yeah. Well, here we were, basically October 31st, right? Is a favorite holiday for lots of kids. So we actually hosted a harvest fest here
Mhm.
at the bookstore, and invited kids. So we had candy all over the tables,
Nice.
little snacks and popcorn. So when the adults arrived for NaNoWriMo, it was kind of the perfect thought food to just grab chocolate, grab popcorn. you know. Harvest Fest turned into Writers Fest, and that was a great way to kick off November. I too have not kept up with my habit of trying to do 16 to 1700 words a day, but I am also inspired by just getting started. And so I love that about the NaNoWriMo challenge. Just get started.
So are you an author as well?
I am, yes. I published my book in February of 2023. It's called Gifts from a Broken Leg: 6 Lessons of Relentless Gratitude in the Midst of a Bad Break. So
Okay, so it's a motivational book.
it is, yes. It mixes humor, leadership, and really, I would say self-love, right? All into one title that's all about your mindset. Um, at the framework for the book is I actually broke my leg trying to be a super mom, ice skating with my boys on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. And I was stuck recovering from surgery on the couch for 6 weeks with the boot on, right? And my boys were smaller at the time, must have been no, 3.5 and 5.5 at that time. And our daughter had not been born.
Oh,
Yeah.
mm,
So,
that's
um,
they're very active. Well, their boys are active. Period. I'm just thinking,
yes,
very
yes,
energetic.
yes. I think these guys take it to another level, you know. But
All
anyway,
moms say that about their boys. If they have two, especially, because
yeah,
then they're wrestling and doing, they're just. I had two brothers, so
yeah,
they used to wrestle and roll around on the floor, not fighting, just like rolling, just like moving, just playing.
yeah,
And
yes, they can do it with each other.
so I hear you on that.
Yeah. So basically, this book captures these 6 messages that I really feel like God downloaded to me while I was stuck on that couch, sitting still. That's when you get some of the best material, some of the best lessons. I
Yes.
had no idea that that was going to be the moment that I would write my book. It definitely wasn't the plan for my first book to be about breaking my leg, but there it was. And I think it's been an inspiration for people, especially going through tough times. I had a wife whose husband is really dying, tell me, I read your book and it gave me so much hope. It reminded me to look for God's hand in everything. And that's really
That's
the theme of the
beautiful.
book. Yeah, look for God's hand in it.
I think that's the goal of every author. It's nice to make money, but when you're actually impacting the people who are reading your books, I think that's something that can't be replaced. That's something that you can't put a price tag on.
Hmm. Absolutely true. Absolutely true.
How
Yeah.
do you balance being a lawyer with being a bookstore owner?
Well, I have to say, I am grateful to my husband. He really makes a lot of my big visions possible. I'm out here trying to do all the things, trying to grow spaces and curate and build community. And my husband is very practical. And so he's like, okay, what do we need to do to just keep things in order while Karla goes and thinks of the next big thing. So I have to celebrate him for that for sure. And then the other thing is we are really building out our store in a direction where we're going to focus on events, right? And inviting people into the store specifically for events. And of course, when they're here, we may be featuring a specific book or a specific author, but they'll have access to our full collection. Um, that hopefully will be a way for us to start to better manage our opportunities to grow our community, and also the other things that we've got going on during the day. I think y'all know that brick and mortar stores are under siege, right? And especially brick and mortar bookstores. So how do we start a store in 2024 when Barnes and Nobles is shutting down locations all over the place, right? And our answer really is that it's all about that community. It's all about really focusing in on a group of folks who need to be celebrated, and want to spend time together, and doing things like creating spaces where people look forward to the snacks, that sort
Right.
of thing, or to the smells. Someone was telling me the other day, oh my gosh, I love independent small bookstores. Just the smell of the books, gets me excited. And so that's what we're really focused on is creating those little nooks and niches where people feel seen, heard, and fully welcomed.
So are
Beautiful.
you open every day or only on weekends, or what's your schedule as far as the store being open?
Yeah. So we have been open 6 days a week, and we are moving to an events only model where
Hmm.
people will see the announcement of our store being open for a specific event on our website, on our social media, through our email and text messages. Um, so that's the direction that we're going, and we'll learn and grow from there to see if we need to shift to a different model. But we've definitely had it open and been looking and excited for people to come. We've noticed that people really come when we invite them to specific events. We do a lot of growth when we are vendors at other events, um, whether it's a conference or speaking or a festival. And then we're also looking to grow our traffic on our brand new website. So our online shopping experience will be open to people 24/7 at SisStoreJoy.com. And we're excited to see the growth and the direction going from there. And as the demand of our community changes, we want to change in response to that.
Well, we did put the link to your store in the chat. So hopefully our viewers will click the link and visit your store. But now, what can an author do? Let's say an author wants to have an event, a book signing, a book launch, or so forth at your store. What should they do?
Thank you. So our bookstore is made up of collective members. So every book that's featured in this store is supplied by one of our collective members. So that's a group of women who have all committed to being in our collective. We have monthly masterminds with our collective. They have the exclusive right to host events in our store, to have their books on our shelves, and to be promoted through our platforms. So if an author wants their book in our store or to have an event here, they should definitely check out our collective membership, and they can find out more about that on at sisterjoy.com.
Okay, are you familiar with Tammy Smithers? She is in Houston. She has a Facebook group called Personal Librarian, and it was launched as a result of a historical fiction book by Victoria Christopher Murray that came out 3, 4 years ago.
Right, I remember
And
that.
Tammy she was at the National Black Book Festival. But with what she does, their mission is to support books by African American women that are historical fiction books. That's their total focus. And they put on events around the books and the book releases and the history behind the books or the locations. And they're always looking for places to have their events that surround these book releases. Some of them are in Houston, but they travel. I think they just went to New York for something. Um,
Mm.
so I need to connect the two of you because I'm sure that she could utilize your space for something they have coming up in the future. They announced their book list like in advance, but I don't think they've announced for 2025 yet. But they focus exclusively on historical fiction books by Black women.
That's incredible. I'd love to meet her for sure. And I love historical fiction. History is my jam, one of my majors.
Okay, yeah. And I met her for the first time at the festival. She was on the show a couple of years ago, and I had never met her in person, but she came to the festival and I got to meet her then. There, did you meet her, Rhonda? Did you? Oh,
I did. I remember that interview when I haven't met her face to face,
okay.
but
So
I
you didn't
remember
meet her
that.
when she was at the festival
No.
because she came because of Vanessa Miller's book, The African Queen. That's
Okay,
historical.
was she there during my
Or the
interview?
American Queen. I always want to call her the African Queen. Isn't
It's
the
the
American
American
Queen?
Queen.
I always want to call her the African Queen. I don't know why. But she was there when Vanessa was there. And I took a
Okay.
picture with her and Vanessa.
Okay,
Um,
I may have missed her. I
you in
probably
the
saw
back.
her during the interview, but
Right.
I don't remember actually like standing and talking with her.
Yeah. So, but Karla, tell us once again the name of your bookstore so people can go visit your store physically or online.
Yes, thank you. So it's the SisStore Joy Christian Bookstore, and we are located at 4107 Lyons Avenue, Houston, Texas, 77020, and online at sisstorejoy.com. And we'd love for you to follow us on all social media platforms. We're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and looking forward to dropping more content there.
Okay,
Well,
well,
thank
it
you
was great
so
having
much
you on
for
the
joining
show.
us.
Congratulations on the launch of your store. And I'm going to make myself a note so I won't forget to connect you with Tammy Smithers.
Awesome. Thank y'all so much. I appreciate it. This has been an amazing opportunity. And God bless you as you continue to grow and bless folks with this
And the,
platform.
and the same to you. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, good night. And for those who may not have been on when we first signed on, this show is now an award-winning show. We won the Best Bookish Podcast, and it was bestowed on us by a Facebook group called Building Relationships Around Books. They've been around for many years, and it was a competitive voting process, and we won. So I'm excited. We're now at an award-winning program. So that's our first of many. I'm expecting some more awards. So our next,
Yes.
you have to expect what you want. Our next guest is someone that I've known for several years. I haven't seen him in a while. I believe the last time I actually saw him, either physically or virtually, was at the National Black Book Festival, but it was like 10 or more years ago. So, but he's an author. He's been around a while. He's also a health enthusiast, and he's going to tell you a little bit about his health journey. And he has a new book out, and he does some other stuff too. So, Earl Sewell, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Well, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We hear you great.
Well, then good. We're cooking with gas. Good evening. How are you?
Doing great. We're doing wonderful. And
That's
how
one.
how have you been since it was about 2012 or 13 last time when you came to Houston.
Oh yeah,
Wasn't it?
it's been a while. But
Mhm.
I'm not aging, so I'm only going to say, I did not age that, 12 or 13 years or so. So, I'm still 32. That's my
Well,
story. I'm sticking to
But
it.
the good part is that you can say that and people will believe you because you really do look like you're 32.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that because I'm trying to slow Father Time down, just a little bit
just
because,
a little. We can't
yeah, because,
stop it, but we can slow it down.
yeah, because,
Eating
he got,
right and being active and
right.
keeping our minds active. Those are the main three things to because if you don't stay active, if you don't eat right, that's where it starts. And that means something green every day. So something green every
Yes.
day. And stay active, then as you get older, your joints and your bones and all of that stuff, it
I
starts
know
to
the
stiffen
feeling.
up on you, your back and your neck and your if you don't move these parts, they get
The more
stiff.
you talk, the more my back hurts. So stop.
Yeah, you don't want those things, those aches to show up prematurely. And I know that I work hard to fight against that. And I share my journey with, people who have read my work and who've been following me for a while. But just to recap, if I may, is that okay?
Yes, yes, I was going to ask you about your journey with type 2 diabetes.
Yeah, so I was going along, living my author life, living my corporate life, living the American dream, doing what I was, doing. I was driving down the highway one day and I blinked and I suddenly could not see.
Mm.
Yeah, that's how serious it was. And eventually, I thought I had an eyelash or something in my eye. You know how you think you got something in your eye and you're just like, oh, I just need to clear it out. Well, I was rubbing and rubbing, blinking and blinking, and my vision wasn't coming back. Eventually, I did the man
Wow.
thing. I will tell you that. When my vision did come back, I was talking to my aunt, my mom's sister, and she was saying, "Oh, go to the doctor." I said, "Oh no, it was just a fluke. It just, I was doing the man thing. I'm all right. I don't want to go see a doctor." Anyway, I go see it. She convinced me to go see the doctor, and that's when he told me you have sudden onset of type 2 diabetes. And
Mm.
I'm like, no, I don't. Because I was in denial. I said, no, I don't. He said, yes, you do. I said, no, I don't. He, he said, yes, you do. And he went on, he says, that's what took your eyesight. And he says, if you don't get your blood sugars down, you're at higher risk for blindness, amputation, heart failure, stroke. He went down the list, and I looked at the guy and I said, I was like, that doesn't sound good. And he says, here, take this pill and stop eating sugar. And I was like, what's that? Anyway, the longest story of it is I decided that the medication kept making me sick, because those side effects that come with medications.
Yeah.
And so I decided that I was going to, as a writer, I always do research. So I decided, well, let me go and do research on this to see what is, because he was treating symptoms and I wanted to get to root cause.
Right. You
Right.
wanted a cure. You didn't just
Yeah,
want
yeah, yeah. I was like,
ongoing treatment.
I was like, I don't want to take this the rest of my life. I want the cure for it. So
Right.
anyway, so I went on this journey of learning, like the root cause of type 2 diabetes. And it was diet and lifestyle. It was the processed foods. It was the sugars. It was the, sitting on my John Henry hind parts a little too long because I'm a writer. So that's what I do. I sit on my John Henry hind parts and I sit here and I eat and I snack and I eat and I snack and I write. So eventually what I did is at the time I weighed about 250 pounds, maybe a little bit more.
Now I
I was
didn't meet you then. When I met you, you weren't at 250.
No, I wasn't up there, but life happens. I had to become a caregiver for a parent, and that will put some stress and some weight on you.
Right.
Okay.
So it was during that time that I became a caregiver that I put on a lot of emotional weight, I will say. You know.
Okay.
So, but anyway,
Mm-hmm.
Well, looking back, what do you think? Were there certain things that were going on that may have been signs of the diabetes? Like for instance, were you drowsy? Was there a weight gain to it? Gassiness. Was there anything that now that you're looking back, like wow, that was a sign?
yeah. Well, see, I didn't know the signs. I didn't know the sign. The frequent urination was a sign. I just thought it was just a sign of me getting older. Having to go to the bathroom all the time. You
Mm-hmm.
know, But that's what I had, and I was always thirsty. But I figured,
Yeah.
I'm drinking
I heard
Gatorade, I'm
that.
drinking more and more sugar, and my body's saying, no, we can't have any more sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so those were the signs, and so I wasn't really paying attention until my body says, okay, you're blind now. Can you hear me now? And
Mm,
and I was like, yes, I can hear you now. I cannot see. This isn't going to work. So anyway, I did my due diligence. I learned as much as I could. I had another friend that was an internal medicine doctor, and she was doing functional medicine. So I worked with her. And eventually, what I did is I got down to where I am now, about 185. And so I have not been this lean since, I was a teenager. I mean, I went from a 44-inch waist down to a 32-inch waist. And let me tell you, it's a difference. It's a huge difference.
I bet.
Uh, and so I changed my diet, I changed my lifestyle, I changed everything. I overhauled my life completely. I gave up the processed foods, I gave up the sugars, I gave it up all, and I went vegan. And when I went back to my practitioner, he says, "You're not the typical diabetic patient." And I said, "Dude, I'm not trying to be your diabetic patient. I'm trying to be your health patient. Like, who said that I want to be your diabetic patient? Like, what did they like?
Like
Right
permanently.
Right. Like,
Mhm.
like what's the plus in that? What's the benefit of that? And so
Right,
the
right.
benefit is your pockets. That's what that benefit is. And so, I didn't want to be his diabetic patient. I wanted to be his healthy patient. But then what I ended up learning, as we all know, there's no money to be made off of healthy people.
Right.
Right.
Because if you are a healthy, functional individual, well, they're not, why would I put a pharmaceutical in my body if it's functioning?
Right.
So that was the difference. And so the last of it is I was blogging my journey to say that I was going to lose this and I was going to reverse this, and it got the attention of Walgreens Pharmacy, and they followed me and they did a docuseries on me about how
Wow.
I did.
Wait,
Yeah,
I didn't know about that.
I didn't
yeah,
either. I mean, I
yeah,
was following your journey
Yeah,
too, but I
I was,
didn't.
yeah, I
Yeah.
saw you on Facebook sharing,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't
yeah.
know Walgreens did that.
Yeah, Walgreens did that, and that was a powerful moment. And again, it was telling my story, and there is a choice that we all can make. It's a choice. You can either go. I look at it this way: I want the most optimal outcomes possible. Pharmaceuticals will get you a result, but there's going to be some side effects with it.
Right.
But if I do the plant-based diet and let my food be my medicine, I can get all the benefits without the side effects. And that was the difference. But I had to make that choice and I had to make a commitment to that choice.
So let me ask you this. And I can speak for myself, and I'm quite sure that there are a lot of people like this. We're in an age right now where it's a hustle mentality. People are always busy. People have their day job, then they have two or three side hustles because they're trying to get ahead. They're trying to add to their bottom dollar. And then I know, speaking for myself and probably a lot of people like me, we get very busy and we don't take time out to do what we know might be good for us.
Mhm.
And it's easy to say, well, think about it. Don't you want to be healthy? You've got to want to be healthy more than you want that bottom dollar. And it's easy to say those things. But how did you, because you said yourself you were always busy, you were always writing. And so you started to lead a sedentary lifestyle. What
Mhm.
was it? What is it that motivates you to get out there and exercise, knowing you still have 20 things you have to do? And
Sure.
knowing that, okay, I can take a 30 minutes to do this, but how do I convince myself to take 30 minutes to exercise?
So what I did is took the gift that God gave me of discipline. Because to be a
Mhm.
writer requires a lot of discipline to sit down and actually get it done. So I transferred that discipline over into my physical activity. And I said, first and foremost, my health is non-negotiable, period. And
Mhm.
so every morning I get up literally between 4:30 and 5 a.m. and I get it in, no questions asked.
Mhm.
Even if I don't feel like I will run in the rain, I will run in the snow, I will go to the gym. I
Running in the
will
rain is very liberating, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. I will get up and I will do it. And I put it at the front of my day because it gets me going. It clears my mind. It gets me going. And I mix it up. I run, I bike, I swim, I do yoga, I do strength training. I'll go into a cardio class. I just mix it up just so that this body, stays healthy. But then when I think about it, when I was a teenager, I was a student athlete. I was navigating 7 or 8 classes a day, plus, being a student athlete and practicing, after school for track and field. So it wasn't that unfamiliar to me. I
Right.
just think that society tells us at a certain point, you got to grow up and you got to put that down and take this corporate job. And don't worry, we got good health care. And it's not really health care. We don't have a health care system in this country. We have a sick care system in this country
Mhm. It's true.
because because health and what I look at how I reframed my thinking I say healthcare, my healthcare is my responsibility. When I go see my doctor once a year for that physical, that's a report card letting me know how well I am taking care of me. Now, if he says, "Oh, this is off and this is off," he's not going to say, "Hey, I'm going to write you a prescription to go see this trainer where we're going to put you up this detailed healthcare plan to get you in the gym to lose some weight so you don't have to take the high blood pressure pills, the high cholesterol pills." Or he's not going to say that. The doctor's not going to say that. They're going to say, "We'll make it easy for you. Take this pharmaceutical." That's what they're going to say.
Right.
Rank and file Western style medicine. They're not looking. When you become the patient that says, "Well, no, I want to, I don't want to treat a symptom. I want to get rid of it."
Right.
And like, what's the root cause of it? And then it was simple. The root cause of it was just processed foods. There's sugar in everything. I mean, there's sugar into, ketchup. That's nothing but sugar. They will put sugar and hidden sugars in everything. And then they'll say, no sugar, but they don't say no sweetener. There's difference.
I was very
really
surprised.
disingenuous. It's really, really dishonest. But
it is
technically true,
Well, no,
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I was very surprised because on Halloween, I made apple cider and it was my first time making it. And I said, well, let me look up some recipes. And I looked up all these recipes and people are adding all of this sugar to it. And I decided I was going to make apple cider, but I didn't want to add sugar to it. So I took probably 7 or 8 apples and I juiced them. And then I added a little water and then I put the spices into it and I tasted, I'm like, this is delicious. And I didn't put a drop of sugar in it. And then I was like, why are people putting sugar in this? They don't need it.
Yeah, because sugar is as addictive as cocaine.
Yeah.
Sugar is as addictive as cocaine, and there's money to be made off of it. And so that they sugars and cereals, they have it everywhere. They have sugar and dairy everywhere. It's a big industry, and the food industry is largely unregulated. So
Right.
people who eat, Cheetos or Puffs, you're eating styrofoam. But I won't go off on all of that. But I do a lot of times when I go and speak, when I tell people my age, they like, "Wow, you look great." I was like, it wasn't always like that. I had to learn because I'm 56 now, but I feel just absolutely amazing. I feel absolutely amazing. And it has, impacted my writing and what I do in that arena. And then also, because I have a day job, but then I also write, and then I also narrate, I also podcast. So this whole storytelling thing has been such a part of my life. It's like what my fingers are to my hand. It's like it's just in me. And I look at the whole journey of the diabetes and all of that as part of my journey, as part of telling my life story, as part of telling that story and letting that story influence and inspire others that, hey, there is another way if you're willing. Is it easy? No, it's not easy at all. And if it were easy, as I say, everyone would do it. But is it worth it? Absolutely. Especially when you don't have to take the pharmaceuticals and you can get up. The biggest thing that I noticed, I can get out of the bed now without groaning. I make them old man sound like,
You don't have to grunt anymore when you stand up and sit down and lie down.
I got to make sure I used to have to make sure my knees were there. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there it is. But now when I get up in the morning, I get up and I stand up and it's like, da, 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 da. And it feels great. And then another thing that people sometimes say is like, "Whoa, where do you find the time? I don't have the time to do it. I'm so busy." And what I say to that, I said, "Well, don't you know being physically active actually gives you more time? It's adding more time to your life. It's adding more time to your time here." So I'm sorry, I went off on a tangent there. I apologize.
No, that wasn't a tangent because
No,
this is your world.
that
This
answers
is
the
your
question.
world. This interview is your world about you and what motivates you. And so that leads me to your latest release where you have a historical fiction book that's set during the Spanish flu pandemic. And for people who don't know when that was, it was roughly 100 years before COVID. So the book is called Lenny Gray, is that right? Okay.
Yes, Lenny
And
Gray.
so what led you to write about the Spanish flu pandemic? I don't know if I've heard about any other books, recent historical fiction with that as the basis for it.
So you will really like this. So Lenny Gray was inspired by my family. It's particularly my father's side. So I've always heard the story growing up that my father was the baby of 18 children. He says my parents had 18 kids together from Mississippi and all this other stuff. And I was like, well, what does that mean? I mean, like this poor woman had 18 kids. Like who does that? But they were living.
Back then, they did, and especially in rural areas. My mother
Yeah,
was one of 15, so that's
yeah,
then there were no twins. So,
yeah, same here.
so her
So
mother really, God bless her, she didn't live that long though. She
yeah,
died when my mother was 18. But
yeah.
a lot of that is healthcare too.
A lot
You
of
know,
that was
she had
healthcare too. Yeah.
hypertension and no real healthcare. So, but anyway,
So
continue.
I did some genealogy work, and I was doing genealogy work trying to see if the myths of the family were true. That myth, oh, we got Indian in us, and and I'm like, well, who had it? Well, such and such over here. And I'm like, well, who's it? Well, they was part of the Cherokee, Choctaw, Apache. I'm like, well, what happened to these people? So anyway, when I did the genealogy and I did the bio DNA thing, I came back to my father and said, they lied to you. Ain't a lick of Indian nowhere. I said, there's some English, there's some Dutch, and there's a whole lot of Irish. But anyway, so I went on that journey. And in this country, when I did my research, I got back on my father's side of the family all the way back to 1817. And, so after that, the trail goes cold.
Mhm.
And so, but I interviewed his sister, who was old enough to be his mother. And through her, I was able to go back in time and look at, the history. And so then since I did not know my paternal grandparents, since they died before I did, long before I was born, I could only hear stories about the things that, they went through. So I'm thinking like, I have my paternal grandfather was born in 1896. And my grandmother was born in 1900. So historically, what they went through, the second coming of slavery, basically with Jim Crow, discrimination, living in a rural area, not having access to education, having to be sharecroppers and living in abject poverty. And it's like, no, well, like, how did they survive? Like, what was, and to go through the pandemic and not have healthcare insurance, and you got to
Right.
rely on your own knowledge of roots and herbs or whatever it is to survive. So I went and I gathered all of that information and I said, there's a novel here. There's a novel here. So I took that story and I followed the family from the 1920s all the way up into the 1950s, up to the Great Migration. So I followed the
Okay.
family for 30 years. And so some of the information that I got from my aunt, what she could remember, I intermingled it into the story, but I also did a lot of research on the area. And then I sort of kind of put stuff together, said, well, this is probably what likely happened,
Mhm.
during this time. And I created a story called Lenny Gray.
Now,
And
who is Lenny Gray? Is that
Lenny
just like a made-up name,
Lenny
or?
Gray was actually my grandmother's name. That was
Wow.
actually
Oh,
That was
okay.
a yeah, and so because she was the matriarch, and everybody always talked, my aunts and uncles, well, Mama said this and Mama said that, and that sort of thing. And even my father never knew his father because he died when my father was just 5 years old. So,
Okay.
but all of his other brothers and sisters, knew, and Daddy used to make beer. That was one of the things they said. Daddy used to make beer, and I was
Okay.
like, okay, like what does that mean? We drank beer all the time. I'm like, what do you mean you drank beer all the time? And like, well, we didn't have clean drinking water. They had
Right.
like pump water out of the ground that would come out of the
They
ground
do they
in the
have a
ground,
well?
right? And it would come out dirty, so they
Mhm.
couldn't drink that. So Daddy would make beer, and everybody would drink beer.
That's a
I was
that's a
like,
thing.
Interesting.
That's the
yeah.
thing. That's the reason why Belgians drink so much beer is because they went through the same thing. The water was not clean enough to drink, so they
Mhm.
would drink beer, and that was how they became famous for beer and why they have so many beers.
Right. And so what? So once I learned that information, then I said, well, help me understand. If you're drinking beer all the time, that's an alcohol, and then of course they're drinking that hooch, that moonshine too. You know, they making
Mm-hmm.
that down there. I said, well, if the kids are drinking beer, I said, well, was your mother drinking beer during pregnancy? She said, yeah, mama drank all the time. I'm like, well, that's called fetal alcohol syndrome. You can't drink alcohol when you're, but you know, it's 1930. They didn't know.
Right. And back then, I think people were tougher.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, I mean, they had less stresses. The stresses that we have, they didn't have those. And even though they had their own stresses, like, and I know what you're talking about. My parents and my grandparents, um, well, one side sharecrop, but my dad's side sharecrop, but my mother's side, they owned their land,
Mhm.
and then they lost it in the depression, and then they got another farm. So they were landowners. So some people did sharecrop, and sharecropping was basically one step up from slavery because you
Yep,
never got ahead.
yep,
You always owed the man, the slave, the
the
plantation
landowner.
owner, but
Yeah.
they were probably descendants of the slave masters. You never got out of debt. And it was by design. So they basically had you tied to the land, working it, and you never got
Right.
out of debt.
Yeah, and that element is in the book too, along with the historical events that happened during their time. Like the Joe Louis Max Schmeling fight, that was a big thing, you know. There were a couple of natural disasters that happened, you know, during their time. There was a stock market crash that happened during their time. You know,
1929.
yeah, during their
Mm-hmm.
time, Gone with the Wind came out, and people were like going crazy about for Gone with the Wind. And so I intermingled all of that into the story, and even the Harlem Renaissance. I intermingled, you know, this explosion of the Black arts movement in the 20s and 30s of, you know,
Mm.
Black people creating literature at a high level. And so you know, again, I intermingled all of that, I and always one of the other things that I had fun intermingling in was superstition, because my family, they had some superstitions that you just would not believe. I mean, they would come up with some stuff and say, you don't want to do that, you know, your left toe will fall off you.
Yeah,
And so
some of those superstitions crossed state and regional boundaries, and then I think some were more narrowly focused, like in the community or whatever. But I hear you because I know my husband. He grew up in a rural area, um, very rural, and he said they grew up thinking black cats were just bad luck. And if a black cat cross your path, you had to find that cat and get it to cross the other way. Otherwise, you're just gonna have horrible luck. And he said, and they hardly ever went to school because he had to pick crops when he was a little boy. He said one morning a black cat crossed his path, and he was going through bushes and everything trying to find that cat. I mean, it sounds so absurd, but that they really believed it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it was raining, and he was going through the bushes trying to find that cat because they were, convinced that it was just bad luck. And a black
Oh,
cat is just like a yellow cat or a tabby. It's just a cat. Just
yeah,
happens. But I
yeah.
don't know who. I wonder where that superstition came from.
I
Well,
don't
you
know.
know,
There's
But
a
there
lot
are
of them
some
out there
still
though.
ones that are out, like bad things happen in threes, and I still say that to this day because my mother used to say it and her mother used to say it, and I don't know if it's true or not, but sometimes it seems like it is.
yeah, yeah. And so again, there you go. There's a modern day superstition, or men in their football is like, well, when I wear my football jersey, my team wins. Now
Uh,
there's no truth to that superstition whatsoever, but people believe. Yeah. And so we all have our superstitions.
we
We
do.
even Stevie Wonder, very superstitious. Yeah.
Great song.
Yeah.
And he had a lot of them in there. that comes in on my Pandora station sometimes. I really now, uh, I've heard it recently, and some of those like anyway. He has some amazing music, just some really original stuff that was just amazing. So
Yes.
he
And
really did.
yeah, and so that was where the idea of Lenny Gray came from, and it was my first foray into historical fiction. And
Mhm.
so, and it was fun doing the research and going back and actually looking at old newspapers and looking at what was happening, during that time. And then understanding that for me, I looked at it as those were the previous chapters of my DNA's history. And I look at it I'm grateful for, all that they went through, to
Mhm.
survive so that I could
You could
live
be here.
because right, because my DNA could have been cut off at any point through, bad birth, war, famine, disease, somebody could have gotten shot. So I
Yeah.
look at it as the resilience of the DNA. And in spite of all the things that they had to go through, there was still enough, to get me here. So I honor that. And I was like so happy to try to bring some of their story to life in some way to show that struggle and then to show the hope when they left Mississippi to come to Chicago for, better work and a better opportunity to, integrate into American society and not live as second class citizens. So, that's one of the things that's one of the things I'm proud of about Lenny Gray.
Wow, we could talk for
We
probably
do,
another
but we're at
30
the end of
minutes
our
about,
time.
yeah.
And it sounds like an amazing book, and historical fiction is my favorite genre. So it's a book I will be ordering.
Yes, yes, please, or download the audio drama. I mean the audiobook too,
Oh, yeah,
because
it's,
Do
it's an
you voice
audio
your own,
too.
do you
yeah.
narrate your own audiobooks?
Yes, so I narrate them, but I went back and I expanded my storytelling ability just from writing to narrating. So I went back and I got some training on how to narrate audiobooks because it's not just reading words. It's really about
Right.
understanding the author's intent and bringing the story to life, and understanding my vocal range and what I can do. So I've narrated about 20 something audiobooks now that include I narrated a memoir for a guy called Chasing Space who played for the Dallas Cowboys and then became an astronaut. I narrated a book for Donna Hill called Confessions in B Flat. And just
Okay,
recently,
I read that book.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
and just recently I narrated a book by an Emmy Award winning television producer named Jeffrey Blunt. He won an Emmy for Meet the Press and the Today Show. And so I
Okay.
narrated his book that just came out earlier this year, Mr. Jimmy from Around the Way. If there's ever a book
Amazing.
that you want to read, I highly, highly recommend Mr. Jimmy from Around the Way. It is
Okay.
one incredible story, and I enjoyed bringing it to life so much. Matter of fact, when I finished the book, I was sad. I called the guy and I said, "You got to write another one. You you got to write a follow-up." I mean, it was just that incredibly good. And I'll say this one last thing. It's a story about a man who is a black man who is very wealthy, but he has a very public fall from grace. And instead of facing the music in this social media world, he decides to move to rural Mississippi and try to hide there. And when he goes there, he runs across a level of abject poverty that he didn't think existed in America. Now he has money and means to change the lives of people. But what he finds out is there are those who don't want to see the people in this particular community of Around the Way um, thrive. It's an amazing story.
I'm
Okay.
gonna
Well, we are
definitely,
three
I'm
minutes
an
past
audiobook girl,
our
so
time.
I'll be looking
She
for it.
is. But this has been really great, Earl. Great hearing your story and all the stories you're telling. And
Yeah.
thanks so much for being a guest on the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate you guys. You guys
Thank
take care.
you. You have a great
Okay.
night. It was great talking with you.
Yeah, same here. Okay, goodbye, guys.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
God bless you.
Okay, so we're on our final interview. We're running a little bit behind schedule, but that was a great he had
Yes.
some great information on health and the work he's doing. So our final guest, she has been on the show before, but it's been about 3 years, and this show is over 4 years old, so we have people who've been on, and then we haven't heard from them in a while, and then we're having them come back to talk about what they're doing. Now, Aretha, you need to turn your camera because you're sideways. We're looking at you like this. Okay. Great. So, no, go back. This is correct right here. Where
You're
you have
looking good right there.
You're looking good right there. And if
And
you
just
can
go ahead and
unmute.
unmute.
Thank you.
There we go.
Okay. And welcome back to Black Authors Matter TV.
I'm glad to be here. It's great to be back. Hi.
Well, great to have you. And I apologize. I can't stay on much longer. Today is my daughter's birthday, and she's on the way home from work. So I got her a little cake, and I want to make sure that I get her a cake before she has to go to sleep.
Okay, well, happy birthday to your daughter.
Thank you. It was great seeing you. But I wish I could stay on longer, but I do want to make sure that I celebrate her birthday before she goes to sleep because she works late.
And how old is she today? If it's okay to say.
Oh, of
20.
course, she's 25 today.
Oh, wow. You don't look like you have a 25-year-old.
Oh, thank you.
Big girl. Her name is Beautiful.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. I remember
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know any other Beautifuls, but that's a great name.
A very creative name.
It is.
Yes, it is. I have to give the credit to her dad.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. And I'm very happy she grew into the name. She's a very beautiful young lady.
Oh, nice.
She
That's
is.
sweet.
Okay, well, Rhonda, I will see you next Tuesday on the show.
Yes.
And have a great evening. Tell Beautiful happy birthday.
I sure will. Thank you. You guys have a great night. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye. So, Alretha, you've been very busy. And first, I want to talk about your book, your latest book. Do you have a copy of it with you?
I actually do. One here
I
in the
know
book.
your book cover is amazing for this book.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. A gentleman named Tyrese Burnett. Actually, can you give me 1 second to get it?
Sure. And in the meantime, Alretha, she's an author, but she's also an actress, and she's on a regular TV series that we're going to talk about after we talk about her book. And her show is one of Tyler Perry's shows that he does, and she has a regular role on that particular show. So I want to let her tell you about it. And but her
daughter between them.
Daughter between them.
Between them.
And I thought that cover, it was very eye-catching.
Thank you. Tyrese Burnett, he's a graphic artist and an actor. He has done a lot of my book covers, but he did this book cover and he's really good. I just give him the concept and he goes with it and always comes up with something great.
Now, is that a stock photo, or did he take a picture of someone?
I told him it's a stock photo.
Okay.
I told him what the story was, and the little girl, when she goes missing, she's wearing one of her princess gowns. She's very into the princess theme, and it's winter and it's snowing. So he gave me some choices, and I picked this one. And then he added the snow.
Can you put it closer to the screen?
Sure, he added
so that people can really see it.
Yeah, and he added the snow. This is a fruit copy, so it has a lot.
Right. I get when I get my books, the proofs, they have that line through.
Yeah,
but I just thought that was an amazing cover.
Thank you. Yeah, I've gotten a lot of compliments on this cover.
It says a lot. So, what's the storyline for the book?
It's about, the tagline goes, 2 mothers, 1 missing daughter, 1 life-changing secret. So it's about 2 women 10 years apart and thousands of miles away from each other. It starts out with the now, which is Leslie. She's a Black woman. She's a reporter, and she's been wanting to become an editor at her newspaper.
And it's been a long dream of hers, long time dream of hers. Then you have Barbara in the past, who is a nurse and has a daughter, and her daughter, in the opening of her chapter, is told an alternating point of views from both women's point of views. It goes from one time period to the other.
Okay.
There is a connection between these women, and that's the big mystery. How are these women connected? But they both are mothers, they both have children, daughters. And the woman in the past, Barbara, her daughter comes up missing. But Barbara is not as innocent as she leads the reporters and police and everyone to believe. And I'm not going to say too much more.
Right. You
But
don't want
it has a lot about mothers and daughters and the love of a mother for a daughter, and both of these women at the same time, at different times, going through a very horrendous situation. And then as the book evolves, we see the connection. That's the mystery.
Okay. Now, which book number is this for you?
This is 15.
Oh boy, okay. Yeah, I have 15 books too. So that's the number I'm on, 15.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and congratulations to you because I didn't know you had that many books. I
Yeah,
know.
the first one was my debut was in 2008. But yeah, I've been
Okay.
kind of doing averaging maybe a book a year, it seems like, since then.
Okay, that's about the time my first one came out. The end, well, it was December 2007, so it was
Okay.
around the same time. So,
Yeah.
and some years I might do two books, and then some years I don't do any. I guess it's an average of one
Yes.
overall. And six of my books are children's books. So
Oh, wow. I didn't know
yeah,
that. That's
yeah,
nice.
I've gone. I'm all over the place with my stuff. I have two
Wow.
novels.
So
And
how do you balance it? I mean, do you find it challenging at all to go from writing children's books to adult?
no,
How do you, it's easy for you to go from one
no.
to
Well, here's the thing. I stay in where my passion is. So it's not difficult because I'm always dealing with topics that I'm passionate about. So my children's books are all business related. Like
Oh,
I
okay.
have a series of 5 books. So 5 of the books are in a series called Kids Biz. It teaches children how to be entrepreneurs. And there are
Nice.
3 main characters in the book. And then
Oh,
my 6th book is actually biographies of Black women in business who built their businesses from the ground up. And it's called Boss Women.
nice.
So I really, entrepreneurship is in my blood. I've been an entrepreneur my whole adult life. And so most of my books have some element of that. I have 2 books on economics. I have one. So I stay in where my passion is.
Nice.
I have the book on debt-free college. It's about money, going to college debt-free with scholarships. And I do a new one of that every year. So every January, there's a revised edition. So that book is always current. And so I just stay in my passions. I don't write about anything that I'm not passionate about. And so,
That's the way to go. I'm staying here, same.
yeah, because I don't think I can't bring forth words when there's no passion, if you
Exactly.
understand what I mean.
Oh, exactly.
Like I could sit at a computer. If there's no passion, the words
Um,
don't flow.
it has to be something that you have a lot of passion about and that drives you, or no, you won't be able to write about it.
Yes. Now, some people can just rattle off stuff. I mean, they can really, and I admire people who, especially like people who write romances and they'll be doing 4 books
Mhm.
a year. And I don't know how they do that because I couldn't come up with that many stories. But that takes a whole nother skill set.
Yeah,
So now are all of your books novels? Oh, they're all fiction.
they're all novels. They're all
Okay.
fiction. Yeah, they're all fiction. Yes.
Now the one that sticks in my mind, I don't know which number book this is. It has something to do with the airline.
The airline.
It was a flight attendant or something. Didn't you have a book about a flight attendant that had on the cover had like luggage or something? I don't
Oh,
know.
no, I think you might be thinking about Renee's Return. That's the one book that there's luggage in front. That's a part of a 4-book series, the Cass and Nick series.
Okay.
And that was like a romance / suspense series about
Okay.
the first book was Married in the Nick of Nine, where she wanted to get married in 9 months. And she meets this guy and they end up together. And then all the rest of the books are about their lives together, them trying to have a baby. He brings 2 kids into the marriage and they're having problems with the girl, the teenage daughter. And that last book is when she comes back into their lives, Renee's Return. And I got that series established me officially as a published author because I got a book deal for that. It wasn't a huge book deal, but it was a book deal just the same. And those books have since reverted back to me. But yeah, that's my Cass and Nick series.
Okay. Okay. Now, did you become an actress first or an author first?
What comes from the egg or the chicken?
Right.
That's a good question. And it's a tricky answer to that because I guess the real answer is I had aspired to be a journalist before any of it. And that's when I was going to USC. When I was in high school, I had friends that were in the drama department. And I was on the speech team and I would do speeches, original oratory and dramatic interpretation and whatnot. And I kind of looked at my friends that were in drama and I kind of thought about it, but I just felt like it wasn't practical enough. I just saw myself waiting on tables because I know how difficult an industry it is to break into. So I kind of veered away from that and I focused on wanting to be a journalist. But when I got out of college, there was a really bad recession. And so what you normally do, you go to a small market, get your feet wet and work your way up to the bigger markets like New York and LA. But no one was leaving those small jobs because of recession. So I had to get work and I got work in corporate America, doing office work and whatnot. And I remember going to see this show, I'm aging myself because I went to see dating myself, the Jeffersons, they were filming. And one of the producers saw me and said, "Oh, you make a great model." So I started kind of dabbling in modeling. And then from there, because I didn't get the job in journalism, I ended up I started taking acting classes. So I'm not writing at all now. I haven't even started writing yet. But in the back of my head, I have this book that I want to write about a young girl. This was the idea I had, loosely based on my childhood, that had a really dysfunctional, harrowing childhood who becomes victorious in the end. And that book was in the back of my head. But in the meantime, I'm acting and I'm doing roles over here and getting under 5 rolls of soaps. But also at this time, because of the really bad childhood I came from, I started acting out that childhood. And I started, being in places I shouldn't, dealing with people I shouldn't deal with. And I had to step away from acting to get my life together, to get spiritually back on track. And that's when I got into corporate America full time and started working. And I was working still and I left acting altogether. And then in 1999, right after I met my husband, I made my foray into writing. And that's when I wrote that first book. It wasn't until 16 years later that I went back to acting. I worked in corporate America. I wrote my books and I also wrote plays and produced plays all that time. And in 2016, I talked to my husband and I said, "Would you mind if I can make it, I can make the math make sense? I'd like to go back into acting." And so I did. I went back into acting full time and was still writing full time. So the writing came first, came the acting and then the writing and then back to the
Back to the acting.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was like
Yeah, a lot of people who are actors, they're not able to do it full time. So they
it's
do something else. Not everybody becomes a quote star. So but you are in a regular series by Tyler Perry called Assisted Living. And
yes.
you've been in it, I think, from the beginning. Is that correct?
I came in during season 2.
Season 2. Okay.
And Tyler directed and wrote season 1. When I came in on season 2, he had turned it over to other writers and directors. I did get to meet, I met him a few times, and he's a wonderful, gracious, just generous, wonderful man. Just so gracious, so to be a billionaire, just so down to earth.
Mm. Yeah, he has an amazing story, the trajectory that he went on,
Totally.
going living in his car to becoming a billionaire and a black man. This is just, an amazing story. His
And
personal.
Gwen, when I saw him for the first time, when I got hired on the show, I came in as recurring. I wasn't a series regular yet. I became a series regular in season 4. But when I came on, we were in deep into the pandemic, and we were quarantined on the camp on the at the studio ground. We lived there. Everybody had to come. They tested us. He had the a whole process, a whole regimen in place, better than even the country. I mean, they could have used his idea and how we handle COVID, because no one got COVID. He had you tested before you came out there. He had us on a private plane. We got there, we were tested again. We tested multiple times a week. We had no incidents of COVID while we were there filming. People were in hazmat. I mean, he was really careful about that. But I got to meet him, and I met him my second year there, and I was outside. I was walking, and my co-star Courtney Nicole, who plays Lee on the show, she was approaching, and I saw this person drive by, and I said, "Was that Tyler?" And it was him. And I said to myself, if he continues to walk on, I'm not going to bother him. But he turned and started walking toward me, and we hugged, and I just broke down, Gwen, and I started crying. And I started crying because I knew his story and I related to it. He grew, like myself, he had a stepfather that abused him. And, he had a really difficult childhood, and I related to that. I felt this kinship with him. And I was so grateful that he never gave up, and I told him, I said, if you had given up, I would not have my dream. My dream would, and so many countless other people's dreams would not have been realized because he stayed the course. That little boy never gave up. And I was so overwhelmed that I just broke down, and he hugged me. He was so sweet.
Yeah, I watched the documentary that was
Yeah.
I forgot what it was on, but Netflix or Prime or one of the streaming channels.
Amazon. Yeah. Yeah. Maxine's boy.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
Maxine's baby. Yeah.
Hmm. So it was really just incredible that he persevered after the treatment that he got, and maybe it could be um, as a result of the treatment he got. Sometimes people are motivated by negative things.
Well, it fueled him. It fueled him. And
Yeah.
he had such a fertile imagination. All of these stories and movies and things that we're seeing now are things that he thought of when he was that little boy hiding under the house. These are stories that he imagined so many years ago that are coming to fruition, which is miraculous. I'm really looking forward to 6668, the military movie, by the way,
Yes,
that's
I'm planning to watch
coming
that.
out in
I think it was
December,
at December 6th
December
or
20th, yeah,
20th.
on
Okay.
Netflix. Mhm.
Okay, yeah, I know it's in Netflix, and I've read one of there are 3 books that have been written on that topic. I read one of them, Sisters in Arms is the one I read by Kaya Arthur.
Mhm.
But the other 2 I have the books, but I haven't read them yet. So, and I may try to read them before uh the movie, because when I see a movie before I read a book, it ruins the book for me. I can do the opposite. I can,
Yeah,
because the movie is more like almost like the cliff notes of a book.
yeah,
It
because the book is
yeah,
very detailed. Yeah.
right. And so, but the movie ruins all the spoilers are in the movie. So that's why I have to read the book
Yeah.
before I watch a movie if I'm going to read the book. Sometimes I don't read the book. I just see the movie and just move on from there. So the role that you have in assisted living, tell us about your character.
Her name is Anastasia Devereaux, and she's a 70s starlet. She was huge in the 70s. And her career kind of, as you get older, it's more difficult to land roles. And someone would call her a has-been. She would beg to differ. So she's, estranged from her sister. She has a twin sister who she's estranged from, and her parents have since died, and a lot of her friends have too. And so she just didn't want to be alone, and she shows up at Pleasant Days and becomes a resident there. And I, I remember my debut performance, both Damian Lee, who plays Judge Junie, and J. Anthony Brown, who plays Vinny, were after me. They were both vying for my attention. And I was playing them both. That was a real fun episode to do. But she's venturing back into acting. She's acting now, but she's struggling with getting old. She's trying to age gracefully, and it's not that easy, but she's very multifaceted in that. Yeah, she's had a very colorful love life. She's had 8 husbands, 8 husbands.
Oh, wow.
One daughter. She's divorced, but she's very conscious about community and about young people and about being a good example. And as she tells Taylor Buck, who plays Sandra on the show, yeah, she's had a colorful love life, but she calls the shots. It's what she wants to do. There are a lot of double entendres, and she's kind of like the sexy one, there. But she's not one note. She's a multifaceted character who is very aware and very confident and very caring and very loving and has a lot of wisdom to give. And I really appreciate Tyler for creating this character because I absolutely love playing her. Do we have anything in common? Well, yeah, we're both actresses. I don't have the colorful love life she has. I've been married for 25 years to the same gentleman. We just celebrated 25 years, September 18th.
Congratulations.
But thank you. But yeah, that, and I'm caring and loving like she is. Now one thing that she has that I don't have, she is a fashionista. Oh my gosh, they dress her, and I have to give Rihanna our wardrobe person, our top wardrobe person on the show. Rihanna and her team, they just dress Anastasia to the nine. I mean, she is killing it in the wardrobe department. And I just envy her because I'm going to stand up and show you what I have on. This is pretty much the extent of my wardrobe, what I kind of do around. I don't know if you can see me.
Yeah, I can see it.
A
top and pants.
I'm pretty much.
It's like me. I wear leggings most days. I wear a top and I have leggings on. I have this top and leggings. That's my standard uniform.
Yeah.
It's a casual, comfortable top.
That's right. If you catch me around the neighborhood, that's me around the neighborhood. Jeans, sweats. But her wardrobe is to die for.
Oh, well, that's good. You get to play dress up.
I love it. I love dressing up. Oh my gosh, I love it. Mm-hmm.
So how did you, we don't have that much time left, but how did you have to compete for that role? Like, was it a competitive part that you got?
I did. I had to audition. I did a self-tape when my agent sent over the audition and I read the character and I was like, there's no way I'm going to get this. I had no belief that I would get that. I mean, I thought of Felicia Rashad, someone like that, getting cast. But she's a bit older the character's a bit older than me. And so, but I did it. I gave 100% to the audition and forgot about it. And I think about a week and a half, 2 weeks later, my agent called me. She says, oh, they're going to be making an offer. And I was like, an offer for what? Because I had totally divorced myself from the process. And she said, oh, they want you for Anastasia Devereaux. And I just screamed. I screamed. And I was just saying, that's God, it's God, it's God, 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 God. And I give God all the credit for landing that part. It is truly a dream come true. And I have to give God all the glory for that.
Yeah, that's an amazing thing. Even as we get older and we pursue our dreams, there's still excitement there.
Yeah.
And that's good. That's part of living a life of fullness, and success. And
I have been going for the business for 23 years. I have been gone. And I came back to 23 years and within 5 years time, boom, just miraculous. It's totally miraculous.
Yeah, so dreams still do come true, and we should continue to pursue them no matter what, as long as we have breath. So, Alretha, we're at the end of our time, but show your book one more time, your book cover, so that
between them, you can get them. You can get the book on Amazon. and Amazon.com. And you can go to my website, ArethaThomas.com, and all my social media links are there. And the book is on the front page. You just click it on and it'll take you right there. And it's going to be, I can't reveal what's going to happen, but it's going to be a big deal with my book in December. Something's going to come out big about my book in December.
Oh,
So
wonderful. Well,
if you
congratulations
follow
in
me,
advance.
yeah, follow me on Instagram, and all my links are on ArethaThomas.com. And if you follow me, you'll hear that notice when it happens next month.
Okay, and assisted living resumes actually tonight at 9:30
Tonight,
your time, Pacific Standard Time on BET. So you can see Alretha in her role on the new series season
and
of
I'm actually in tonight's episode, and it has to do with me and almost getting canceled. I'm trying to get followers and almost getting canceled. So yeah,
okay.
I'm in tonight's episode. Yeah, it's a fun episode.
Okay, well, all right. Well, thanks so much, Alretha, for being a guest on the show, and continued success with your writing and
Thank
your
you
acting.
for having me, and continued success for you too. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Well, that's it for this week. We will be back next Tuesday night with another amazing episode of Black Authors Matter TV. My co-host has already signed off, so I'm Gwen Richardson signing off, and we'll see you next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Thank you for tuning in, and join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for another edition of Black Authors Matter TV.